Welcome to Everyday Tarot, your daily dive into the divine wisdom of the tarot. I'm your host, Camille A. Saunders, healer, tarot extraordinaire, and your local witch next door. And today I'm talking all about the Five of Pentacles. Whether you're a seasoned tarot reader or just starting to explore, this podcast offers daily insights, intuitive messages, and practical advice drawn from the cards. Each episode is designed to help you connect with your inner wisdom, find clarity in your decisions, and tap into the energy of the universe. Tune in every day, Monday through Friday, for fresh perspectives and empowering guidance from the tarot as interpreted by me. If you're loving the show, the best way to support is by listening daily, leaving a review, or subscribing or following in your favorite podcast app. For monthly hangouts, tarot Q&As, and more, you can join the Everyday Tarot Patreon family. If you're local to the greater Puget Sound area, I'd love to see you at my next Let's Talk Tarot meetup group event on Monday, May 12th from 5:45 to 7 p.m. at the Sumner Library. We'll be having a potluck and creating our own tarot cards. I'll bring all the crafting supplies and you bring the food and we'll craft together. If you'd like to be the first to hear about upcoming events, presentations, musings, and info and photos of my day-to-day life, you can sign up for my weekly newsletter. When you do so, you'll also get my free PDF with the 2025 5-card tarot spread I created just for you. I am also a sex and relationships therapist, seeing clients virtually all over Washington State. I love working with queer, poly, and witchy clients who might be struggling with anxiety, chronic pain or illness, communication issues, self-advocacy, and sex. If you want to work with me, I'd love if you reach out on my website where you can book a free 20-minute consultation to make sure we're a good fit to work together. You can find the links for any of these offers in the show notes or on my website, camilleasaunders.com/everydaytarot. All right, like I said, we're into season 7. I'm talking all about the Suit of Pentacles. If you haven't listened to the other seasons, you should go ahead and check those out. But today, we're going to be getting into the Five of Pentacles. If you want to hear an episode dedicated to an overview of the whole Suit of Pentacles, you can check out season 3, episode 13. But yeah, let's get to the Five of Pentacles here today. So images or symbols specific to this card are sort of insecurity, worry, sadness. 5 cards across all of the suits are often about challenge or conflict, or again, sort of in this larger like halfway or turning point when you're on the journey, which if you often think about in sort of like the middle of a book, is often the part where like things aren't going super well, and you're kind of like, okay, are we ever going to get there? Like you start to question things. So that's definitely sort of what comes up with this particular card. When I'm looking at the 3 cards I have here, there's definitely a lot of like depictions of people with like sadness or head turned down, like anxiety or worry. In the Therapist Who Tarot deck, they depict pentacles as spirals, and there's sort of like all these different spirals going on, and they're all connected in the background, almost in the same way that we talk about spiraling as like anxiety. In the Five of Pentacles card in the Sacerdotito Tarot deck, there's these 5 sort of pentacles or stars at the top, and then we see this like almost looks like it's a plant, but like perhaps like a stalk of corn growing that's like all shriveled up and sort of sad looking, where we're sort of reaching this point of like insecurity or worry, or perhaps like end of season if you think about fall seasonally, where like things are dying back, right? The warmer weather is stopping. So in the Library of Esoterica tarot book by Tasha, they talk about the 5 of Pentacles is all about worries, concerns, or imbalance. The 5 of Pentacles asks us to be wary of negating our own needs for others and instead connect to self and spirit. So if we take a look at some of my books and what they say about it, in the Tarot and Astrology book by Corinne Kenner, they talk about that the 5 of Pentacles is associated with Mercury in Taurus. It says, when Mercury the Magician finds himself in Taurus, his focus shifts. Normally, he's busy on the intellectual plane, a role that corresponds to his rulership over Gemini, the sign of communication, and Virgo, the sign of work and service to others. Here in the 5 of Pentacles, however, mental Mercury is suddenly thrust into a cruel world where he has to fight for physical survival. The Golden Dawn designers of this card called this the Lord of Material Trouble, because high-flying Mercury is weighed down here by the limits of physical existence. In earthy Taurus, Mercury is earthbound. He's trapped in human form, weighed down by the limits of physical existence, but he can transcend the physical world by turning to the spiritual realm of spiritual teaching and tradition. In the Tarot for Change book by Jessica Dorr, she talks about that the Five of Pentacles is one of the secrets in tarot that doesn't require much finessing to be told. When you look at the card, right, it activates a lot right away, has no problem being vulnerable with strangers. It says it whispers things about being sad, lonely, left out, abandoned, and destitute. Its voice cracks around a lump in its throat as it speaks openly of hardship. I think what makes it so sad is that the warmth and connection that the wanderers so visibly need is immediately available to them. We can practically see the hugs, blankets, and tender meats falling off the bones with the glow of the windows, but they can't or aren't sure how to get inside. So sadly, this is an experience that many of us can relate to, right? Where we're just really feeling that like nothing is going my way, things are down in the dumps, like it's hard to see past it. So in the Fearless Tarot book by Elliot Adam, they talk about that the Five of Pentacles is about poverty consciousness. Represents poverty and neediness, not just as a physical condition one suffers, but a pervasive state in mind. Worrying about how am I going to pay for this? If I don't give more money for the 100th time, will it be my fault if something bad happens? I wish I could just get lucky and finally win the lottery. And I'm just not good with money. When can I get out of debt? Why am I so worthless? Why don't they appreciate me? These are all examples of that poverty consciousness, and even rich people can get stuck in that mindset because poverty isn't just about the money, it's also about self-esteem. Do you feel that success is granted to everyone else but continues to elude you? Are you adequately compensated for the work you do? Do you feel confident enough to put up boundaries with others? Do you value yourself and the services you provide? Do you need to get a new job? So all of these things, right, can come up with this card and this mindset here, which is just that sort of like, I was going to say small-mindedness, but I feel like that's being too harsh on it. I think it's just that sometimes we can get really caught up in that negative attitude or a depressive mindset, and it can be really hard to get out of that without sort of external proof that things will get better. And right, often the external things won't get better until we have that inner fortitude. So let's dive in and see what the cards have to say today. We'll be pulling from the Citadel, a fantasy oracle deck by Ben Inkwright, and thinking about, right, how can we surpass this poverty mindset, right? How do we value ourselves and others, our time and energy, and, right, perhaps get out of situations that aren't valuing that. Okay, I pulled the Botanist, which is about parenthood and legacy, but in reverse. So I'm going to go ahead and look that up in this book, which is Botanist. It says, beneath the thick, well, let me just read the reverse. It says, you may have become too parental in your social relationships, becoming controlling or overprotective. This is creating stress for others and for you. Let your roles mature by releasing the parent-child dynamic and embracing a more trusting, independent adult-to-adult relationship. And I think, right, when we think about money or financial insecurity, or even just like insecurity in general, sometimes we can be waiting for someone to tell us that we're secure, right? Waiting for someone to affirm that. And instead of, right, being in this sort of like dynamic where like child parent, where you're like, oh, parents, right, tell me that I'm great, like affirm me and like love me, right? Okay, love shouldn't be conditional, but right, appreciate the things I do. And instead it's saying, right, like you don't need to rely on that. You can find that within yourself. You can have peer relationships. You can have healthy social relationships, and also just feel that way about yourself, like have a healthy relationship with self as well. So I feel like that's what this card is calling us to do today, is thinking about our own legacy mindset and not just about, right, the traditional ideas about family and passing things down to children, but like, what do you want for your future self? What would be healing to your past self and things like that. All right. Well, links to the tarot decks will always be in the show notes on my website if you'd like to look at them or purchase them. And thanks for joining me today on Everyday Tarot. Just as a reminder, the podcast comes out daily, Monday through Friday for all of 2025. All right, see you soon. Bye-bye.